Our guest today is Susan Blood, and I want to explain that I'm clutching tissues because she's one of these mean girls. and while we were waiting, she threatened me and said some terrible things, so I'm going to be very tentative in broaching any subject with Susan. She is many things. One of them is a humorist. And you're a triple threat because you do a radio show, you do a column in the newspaper, and you're an author too. So today we're going to discuss a lot of things. Susan's book is How Not to Do Things, which is something we can all sign up for, right? And it's a collection of essays about kind of common things in life with her little take on them. How would you characterize your book, Susan? Welcome, first of all. And how
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So you say now.
Well,
but before the cameras rolled, she was a different person.
You never know who you're going to get, right?
Really, really.
That's the thing with writers. You know, we spend so much time by ourselves.
We inhabit other people's lives, so it's hard when you have to get down to your own.
Who should I be today? So yeah, it's things that happen to all of us, or one hopes that maybe it's not just you, but that we don't usually tell people about because we're smart and we don't like to let people know what's actually going on behind the scenes. But I found an awful lot of material that just sort of begged to be written down, so there it is.
You know, it's funny, I was telling her that I remember as a kid, there used to be a column written by someone named Irma Bombeck, Life Over the Septic Tank or something like that, right?
The grass is always greener.
Over the septic tank.
Yeah.
And so she had a take, it was, you know, obviously Susan's is a more contemporary one, but it was the same kind of thing where she took things that happened every day and had a humorous twist to them so you could laugh at them. But truthfully, I think her humorous take, Susan's humorous take, is more like Seinfeld. Now that's a compliment, Susan.
Thank you so much.
We love Seinfeld.
Thank you. Yes, we do.
Can you see why they would have some similarities?
Well, it's about nothing. You know, it's.
Well, I didn't want to be rude, but.
But yeah, it's a whole lot of, you know, just regular well, it's not normal. The stuff that happens to us is not normal. In a lot of cases, I mean, nobody has a chicken coop that's shaped like the Hirshhorn. I'm really pretty sure that that doesn't happen to normal people. But, you know, other things happen to regular people.
Yeah, and it's how you greet them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can be morose, or you can say how humorous it really is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's how I'm wired. I just find things funny, usually inappropriately, but I think how you're wired changes how you see things.
You know, I agree, because I think that there's so much unintended humor in life that if you don't grasp onto it and spread the word, you're missing the boat.
Yeah.
Now, you know, it's interesting because I think that you and I were talking a little bit about classes on how to write humorously. What do you think of those?
Yeah, I've never taken one. I'm not sure that it's something. Yeah, I'm not sure that it can be taught. I think it's a timing thing. I don't know. For me, it's something that it's sort of always been my currency. I've always found things funny and shared what I find funny, and humor has gotten me pretty much everywhere. It's got through many situations and hideous dinner dates.
Yeah.
So, so as far as writing humor, I would be surprised that somebody that doesn't feel that innately, who's driven to be funny, would want to take a class like that.
Because it's not funny. I totally agree. I mean, I think it's a scam, actually, because you either have a particular take and perspective on life or you don't. Yeah. And you can't infuse that into your writing if that's not normal for you.
Yeah.
We're talking about some of the unintendedly funny advice people give when they're teaching someone how to speak, do public speaking. Start with a joke. Well, have you ever heard some of these jokes?
They're awful.
Yeah, they're fodder for your columns,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Now listen, have you ever written a column or, you know, on your radio station on something that totally bombed and people did not think was funny and you thought was funny?
Well, that's the great thing about radio is you have no idea if it's not landing. You just, or it's when I've done readings, and if you're doing a reading and you don't get that feedback, you're like, you should be laughing right now because that was hilarious.
Yeah,
But-
what's wrong
But
with these
sometimes
people?
it doesn't, and who knows?
Yeah, I think that's
We
similar.
need plants. We need to have some plants.
Well, you know, I do think that's similar, though. You know, when you're facing an audience and you know there's something that is pretty funny, actually, and when you see this sea of dead faces, you know that there's probably, you haven't done something right, or else they have
Yeah.
taken a lot of drugs before they come in there.
Or didn't.
Or didn't take their meds, and there they are, because they're not laughing at you.
Yeah.
Now, which do you prefer a certain medium? Because you write a column, you do radio, and now you have a book. Do you prefer any of the three?
This was great. I would write books. I would totally write books. I mean, who doesn't want to write a book? I've wanted to write a book since I was like 4, so.
But you know, that's
Yeah.
the problem. Not everyone is as talented as you, so when they say there's a book in everyone, right, but it may not be a good one. I mean, it may be one that you'd rather not have. Yours, however, is worthy of reading. Now, we talked a little bit about your cover. We said we wanted to talk about this cover because it is very cute. I don't know if, can we see that? Yeah. Tell us about it.
I love my cover. So the cover happened, I went to my sister's house for a few days and I was working on the book and we were chatting about things and totally unrelated. She said that she had gone to this party and she wore 2 different shoes. And she didn't realize it until someone was like, so is this a thing now? To her. And she was mortified and that was that. But I've done that where I have like 30 pairs of black shoes. So the odds of me pulling out an actual matched pair of my closet first thing in the morning when it's still dark, especially in the winter, are slim to none. Fortunately, there's like these shoes, these made me a little motion sick just standing in them because they're a little different. So I think you'd notice that. Anyway, there are things like that that we've all done, or again, one hopes that other people have done, that is pretty much what the book's about.
What if you're the only one, Susan?
There's that possibility.
I know.
Well, then if you write it right, people are like, oh man, I wish I had that horrible thing happen to me.
Or, isn't she, poor sad
Poor
creature,
Susan.
poor sad creature, buy her book because she really needs the thing.
It's true, I do.
But
Buy
you know,
the book.
it would, I guess you could always have the savoir-faire to say, if they say, is this the new thing? You say, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Haven't you checked YouTube?
Yeah, oh yeah. And me, I'm all savoir-faire.
Yeah, I could tell.
You can
I
you
could
probably
tell.
picked up on that.
What do you find about when you're doing your radio show? Do you have guests on your show?
I keep meaning to, but my radio show, don't tell WOMR, but I tend to sort of panic and put it together at the last minutes. But I've been wanting to do that because they're really great opera people. It's about opera. It's
Right.
called Opera Betty, and it's a radio show for people who hate opera because everyone I know hates opera, and I love it. So I always try to make it a little bit more accessible, and I can't help but crack jokes.
But
so.
you know, when I read the title of your radio show, I thought, what is it about opera that you love that you try to let others understand?
I love opera because it is such a huge bang for your buck. Sometimes you've got dancing, but you've got vocal performance and theater and an orchestra and an amazing set, and it's all in one place for the same ticket price. And it's pretty great. And the stories are ridiculous. I just love it. It's
My
so
father was an opera
huge.
buff. I mean, he was
Oh,
always
okay.
playing opera and all that, and the rest of us, of course, railed against it because it was, do that. But it is a. Why do you think people are sort of put off by opera?
Well, I think that usually smart people talk about opera, which is why I'm so refreshing. Opera has gotten to be this, sort of lofty hoity-toity thing where it's not for everybody, or again, musicologists speak about opera, and then you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. People totally know what I'm talking about because I use small words because they're the ones I understand. But I think I think there's this disconnect, and also people love to not like things that they like. Like I don't like musicals, so there you go.
Oh,
That's
you
who
don't
am.
like musicals?
Well, no, but also like people have their like that's who they are. Oh, I don't like opera. They've never listened to an opera, but they don't like it.
Well, they have them now in movie theaters too. They
Those are so fun.
I don't know. I like the ceremony of, you get to dress up and go to a night, the opera house, and that's part of the mystique, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. No, I do love that. I love getting out of the house. That's not true. I like saying that I've gotten out of the house, but I like staying in my house. But the thing with those is the Met Opera Live in HD is that it's a gateway drug to live opera. Like I think that that's a great way to go and
Okay.
like see an opera, but not totally commit. And then you'll see that and you'll think, I really want to go see a live opera now.
Who was your favorite of all the opera singers?
Oh, Joyce DiDonato. I like her a lot. Now I'm on the spot.
Not a Pavarotti fan?
Sure.
Who isn't?
Yeah,
Who wasn't?
Right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And are you a singer as well? I mean,
Mercy? No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was
Maybe
going to
that's-
ask you to go burst into song, but I see
But
an aria
anyway.
is not in our future here.
You're welcome for that.
Oh, I am. Well, when you published this book, we were talking a little bit about. Do you read your own reviews? Have you read what people have said about your book?
Yes, because so very few people have said anything that the odds that they're going to go out of their way to be mean is pretty slim. So yeah, I've read, and it's so interesting because you think that you're doing one thing and then you put it out there, and people have different. They point out things that you've done that you can now take credit for having thought of that you didn't know that you had done. So,
Well, I read your reviews on Amazon.
oh, good.
Yeah, and because I think there were, as you said, there were maybe 10 or so. I mean, it wasn't like there were 500 of them, and they were all very, very favorable, which I can understand because it's a fun book. I remember one person said that she keeps the book by her bedside, which is kind of a nice.
Which is so great.
Yeah, isn't that something? I mean,
Yeah.
to think that someone would do that, but sometimes people can, especially we were talking about the anonymity of the internet. Now people can just get away with saying anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me a little nervous. But people haven't been mean.
Then you're
There's
doing
time.
something wrong.
There's still time
right?
for that.
Yeah, you're doing something wrong if you haven't gotten a few meanies.
Right. Well, also, my whole book is busting on myself. Like, pretty much I've done it. So the trolls, they've got nothing left.
What can they say that you haven't already said
Exactly.
yourself?
Exactly.
Now, if we were to ask your family, what would they say? Which of your pieces here would they say represents the mother they know?
Oh, it's all pretty realistic. Yeah.
So you haven't no gloss on it, right?
No. That's us. That is us.
How did your family react when you said you were writing a book? Did your family have any reservations about it? That there might, their private life might be exposed, or their mother's foibles might be exposed?
They're used to it by now because I've written and had stuff online and for such a long time. But when the kids were really little and had no say in it, I had no idea that people were reading what I wrote. So that horse left the barn a long time ago. But when I finished the book and was just about ready to send it off, I did ask my husband to read it because I didn't want him to divorce me as soon as the book came out.
And
I
there would have
figured
been
he should-
evidence too. Yeah,
Right,
yeah, yeah.
right. So there's a lot.
Lawyers
I
are
wanted
terrible.
him to.
They'll go for
and I
the
hear it's
throat, yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
So, and because it's all out there. He was a really good sport about it. My son has not read the book, but he knows all the stories. He was in them. And my daughter was psyched because she ends up sounding really super smart in most of it. So she's like, please publish away.
Write more.
Yeah.
Now you started as a blogger, didn't you?
I did, accidentally.
What do you mean accidentally?
Accidentally. I started a blog because I was trying to do, I had been asked to open a blog, start a blog for an art gallery, Left Bank Gallery in Wellfleet in Orleans, and I didn't want to screw it up for her. So I did like this practice blog. And I called it Trout Towers because my husband has a record label and recording studio called Sonic Trout, and everything says, it's Trout Towers where we live. And I just started it. You know, what's the title of your blog? And I typed it in there. Now, if I had been doing it on purpose, I would still be trying to figure out what to call it. But there was no pressure, and I had no sense that anyone would read it. So I just started doing this online journal. I'm not a journaler, but I liked the idea of having this place where I had some sort of, you know, accountability maybe. So I started writing, and I needed an outlet. So I did end up doing the blog for the gallery, but in the process, I opened this whole can of worms that's been, you know, they're kind of cute worms. So.
And weren't you urged then to take some of your blog pieces and put them into the book?
So so the blog led to, everything is like dominoes, right? So the blog, through the blog, I was introduced to a yoga teacher who asked me to write a column for an online magazine called The Magazine of Yoga, and she didn't make me do yoga to do that, which was pretty great.
So those people can be very rigorous.
Yeah, right. And it's yoga. It was yoga off the mat. So yoga, like real life, applying your yoga to actual life. And I loved writing that column. So that got me out there, and I can't even remember the original question, so I'm just going to keep going.
Well, we do have time limits here, Susan.
Yeah.
We got cards that tell us. No, I was just wondering how you. So
it was those essays plus the blog that I think is why Rob reached out to me and said, "Would you have a collection of essays for a book?"
And do you use any other social media platforms?
Facebook. Facebook. I'm on Twitter and a little Instagram.
Yeah, I like Twitter myself. I mean, I'm on Facebook too, but it's because it forces you to be economical in your writing.
Yeah.
And you can get a whole lot of, if you think about it, I like it as an exercise, sort of a exercise in discipline.
Right. Right. It's like haiku.
Yeah, no, I think that's there. How many Twitter followers do you have?
I have absolutely no idea.
What?
I know. I'm not very good at that platform building thing.
Well, you need to go home and look at that because that is your homework when you come out here. You got to know how many Twitter followers you have.
Alrighty.
Yeah, because I mean I have a good number of them, 10,000, 12,000.
My gosh, I'm sticking with you.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that I say anything particularly pithy, but I know that I don't say buy my book every time, which is what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And it's a major turnoff.
Yeah.
So, that's your homework. Now, what about on Pinterest? Do you use Pinterest?
I don't.
I think you would.
Yeah. I would
Building,
think
little pictures of that go illustrate your book.
Yeah, I would think I would too. It didn't take. It just made me feel bad about myself. Pinterest, because there's all these great projects. I have kids, so I'm always supposed to be sending these really adorable cupcakes into school, and it's just not happening.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's
Pinterest just makes me
somewhat
feel
tragic.
terrible.
So I'm glad that you decided. Glad you decided.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, but I did. Now, do you use Pinterest? Thought I'd bring it up again. Now that I've got you on the run, I wanted to make sure you did that. No, I just think it's interesting because different things work for different people.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, an author page on Facebook is a good one, and you have a blog. I mean, you have a website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trout Towers.
You still have
It's all
it.
Trout Towers.
Everything's Trout Towers.
Yeah.
Yeah. No imagination here.
None.
Oh.
None.
Well, at least
also, I think Susan Blood was taken. Which what else am I going to
Really?
call it?
Because I mean, that's not the most typical name.
No, I married well.
You should be writing mysteries.
I should.
Can you imagine?
I should. But can you write a funny mystery?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I put humor in mine.
That's right.
Not necessarily about the killings, but most of them are bad people. They deserve to go.
To know.
Whereas, I mean, I think when you describe victims, I think that some of the best fiction has humorous descriptions of people.
Yeah.
You know, not if you look at some of the mystery, Agatha Christie. I mean, she was quite
Yeah.
tart in her observations about the people that her. Now, see, I don't want to get emotional here. it's just more than I can bear. But I think that you could write a good mystery. I'm telling you, by reading this book, I can tell you that your observations about people and details would make a very good book. Not a cozy. We don't want any more cozies. The world must be spared for the cozies. But you know, because what is this but a collection of everyday life?
Yeah.
And all you'd have to do is interject, you know, some action into it.
Yeah.
Now, of your house,
Kill
when you
somebody.
say you like to be in your house, what's the task you find most odious?
Cleaning up after myself, certainly. And then, yeah, cleaning up. I'm not a good cleaner.
Not a good cleaner.
Not a good cleaner.
You don't find salvation in housework.
Nope. Nope. I do have a robot vacuum that I'm a big fan of. I like that. But I hate clutter, so
You're not a hoarder then.
I'm not a hoarder. I'm an unhoarder.
Well, that's good because that does, since you have pets and children and a husband and everything else, hoarding would be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, there wouldn't be any room for us.
And how would you hear the opera if you had all? Do you play opera a lot at home?
Not a ton, mostly in the car.
Oh, even you
Yeah,
are a fan.
I
Then, huh?
play it, well, yeah, my family doesn't feel exactly the same way as I do.
But they tolerate your.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll watch it with me. They'll go to the opera. They even, you know, when the kids were little, we'd go to opera. I tell you, you know, there's a lot of drama in it. People should try opera.
Well, you know, maybe it's like a lot of people say, I don't like Shakespeare for the same
Yeah.
kind of and who can not like Shakespeare? But nevertheless, I mean,
Yeah.
the same kind of thing.
Yeah. But if you see a Shakespeare play and it's done terribly, then
But
you
the
don't
word-
understand
but the
it.
words are still there. The
Yeah.
beauty of the language and the words are still there. And similarly with opera, right?
Right. Right.
Because and how many things have translated from one to another, and they're still in opera.
Yeah.
And your favorite opera is?
It's a moving target.
No, we're not going to let you get
Yeah.
out
Okay.
of it.
War and Peace.
War and Peace.
I also am
The Tolstoy version or
you
the
know
abridged
what?
version?
I also am a big fan of The Barber of Seville. I just love it. It's so silly. Yeah. Anyway.
Now, do you go into New York too?
Well, I do sometimes. Yeah.
There's nothing like the Met,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Nothing like the Met.
It's hard to.
It's spectacular.
Yeah, but that's a production in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what is your next endeavor? What's your next book like?
So I have started collecting some ideas, and I'm not sure. I'm thinking that it might be fiction rather than a collection of essays, but it would be kind of the same idea.
So
the same voice.
What genre would you say?
Genres are hard. It'll still be funny. One thing I learned about myself after this was published was that it's not just funny, that there's also like there's like this communal good aspect of it. Who knew? So I think it'll be a little like that. Not exactly self-help, but
Yeah, because I
A way
won't call
forward.
it women's fiction because
A
I
way
find
forward.
that obnoxious, that term.
And I keep hearing about all these husbands who are running off with the book. Like,
Really?
yeah.
Does it help them understand their own wives better?
Maybe so.
Or
Maybe
yearn
so.
for the domestic life?
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, I mean that is always interesting, isn't it? Because when they ask you, like, before you post it, what's your target audience, and you would not have thought that there were a lot of
I
men
had
in there.
no idea who my target audience was. It's totally different than what I thought.
When you initially, what did you think it was?
Well, I was afraid because it is so light. I thought it might be kind of a chick lit sort of thing. But yeah, I have a lot of male readers, and the age span is really wide too. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I find that it's always interesting because like On mine, I figured it was women of a certain age, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I met somebody who was in her 90s once, and I apologized. I said, well, there's some sex in it. And she goes, not enough. So there we go. We have been speaking with a woman who's a universal woman, Susan Blood, today, about her book, How Not to Do Things. And I would recommend to anyone who wants to enjoy, see yourself in it also, but enjoy fun series of essays and everything, and to look up your blog, which she has repeated so many times. Trout
Towers.
Trout Towers. Check out the Trout Towers, and then you'll get to see a lot more and hear a lot more of Susan. And I look forward to your next book as well, Susan. Thank you very much for being our guest here today.
Thank you so much.